Welcome back. You are still watching Morning Live. Onto our big book feature for this morning. Described as fabulous, insightful and mind-blowing, Zoliswa Tshetshe's latest book, I Serve, seeks to awaken your spirituality by discovering the most powerful tool a human being can possess, the mind. The book shares her real-life experiences that helped her escape being imprisoned by her own mind and how that held her back from being the person she was destined to be. Let's now chat to Zoliswa, who is here in studio to tell us more about her offering. Zoliswa, it's great to have you in studio. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I mean, this book is based on your own life story.
Absolutely.
Quickly take us through just some of the unfavorable events that happened that ultimately shaped you writing this book.
I had almost everything that you would expect a person at my age, from the age of 20 to 40 to have. I had a good job, I had a family, I live in one of the affluent areas, but inside there was this emptiness that was sitting there. I was not the person that I would have wanted to be when nobody's looking, when I had nobody to impress. I looked around, I would wake up in the morning and say, why can't this world come to an end? In the evening, why is the sun setting? Up until, of course, I came to a point where I wanted to share the story and get everybody to understand what the heck life is all about.
So what is it that you were going through? Because it sounds like you were questioning your character a lot. So it seems like you were okay when you were around other people, but when you were yourself, you questioned things about yourself. Were you going through some form of a depression? And what would you say induced that feeling of emptiness?
It may not necessarily be depression as diagnosed, but the state of anxiety and the movie that I was creating, the fear of what tomorrow would hold for me. There was no specific event, but I would reflect and say, from the time that I was born up until now, my life has not exactly been the ideal. I have been molested, I have been discriminated against, and I felt myself living in there was some kind of a ceiling that was bottling me in, and I was not able to really free myself and be the kind of a person that could stand up and say, hi world, I love the life I live.
There was also a time when you were broke, you were broken, and you were just literally your entire being was falling apart. Take us through that time.
I had lost my job in Pretoria and I went back to Johannesburg, and it was a time to Port Elizabeth where I was born. It was a time when there was a very difficult period to really find jobs and to recreate yourself when you're coming from outside of the city, because I needed to know who is the right person to speak to. I remember that I thought, I lived in an area called Gwadwesi in Port Elizabeth, and out of a state of desperation, I wanted to go to a traffic circle somewhere in town where I could beg, because I saw somebody who was doing it and he would get 5 rand coins. And I didn't do it because I didn't even have the 8 rand to take a taxi from the township to go there, so that maybe I could beg and get another 80 rand. So it was a difficult state where I didn't have food to eat, and the whole family depended on me. My mother, my child depended on me, and all that I could do really is to sit in my bedroom and cry.
And so when did you start to claw back and claw out of that empty space, out of that depressive state, out of that darkness, that dark place that you were in?
It happened around 2016. I remember a friend of mine who lives in the US came to visit, and we used to share experiences, and I think she used to be my shoulder to cry on. And so when she came, and I had to open up and talk about what my life was all about. We were sitting across the table from each other like this. We were looking at exactly the same life because she understood my background, but we were seeing completely different things. I thought, she's on drugs. It cannot be that we're looking at exactly the same set of circumstances. She sees the positive in it and I see the negative in it. And so she asked me if I could go to some workshop somewhere in Johannesburg, not that she had invited me to 4 years ago, and I had given every excuse not to go. And it was only then when I got given a mirror to look at my life, and I began to see that it is actually the way that I was looking at life, because the way that the mind operates is if something, one small thing has happened that is negative and I focus on it, the universe understands that where I have put my attention, then that is my intention. And because the subconscious mind is diligent, it is generous, it is going to bring all other sets of negative circumstances to validate this negativity that I have. So it was a way that I was looking at things. The moment I released the negative beliefs and I said, everything that has happened to me, but not through me. But I'm going to take charge of my life from now on. Whatever has happened in the past is a lesson and an experience. From here on, I'm taking charge, and I will create the reality of the world that I want to see, despite the circumstances that are happening around me.
And I guess that's the one way of how people can start to live the kind of life that they love. Let's talk to us about your passion for women development and, you know, just empowering women. Where does that come from?
It comes from being a woman myself, having been raised by a single woman, and having seen a lot of situations where women are regarded as congenitally sort of inferior to their male counterparts. I wanted to find, to get everybody to a space where they find themselves and they understand that before the gender of the body that you are in, you are. So you have exactly the same power that your male counterpart has. And the only way for you to really unleash that power is to understand exactly who you are and what the heck are you all about in this world.
Zoliswa, very, very quickly, talk to us about your project, your organization, Girl Power SA. Talk to us about the work that you do and the kind of impact you hope to have in society.
Girl Power South Africa is an NPO. It encourages young women to be independent and to go out and really chase after everything that they are looking for. We are working with girls mainly in Sunning Hill with the main founder, Fezeka, and we come together with the girls with the different topics of empowerment and share these as older women who have walked the path ahead of them and talk to them about how to approach life in such a way that they don't find themselves being victims. We have already made mistakes ourselves, and I mean the new mistakes that should be made right now should be brand new. They don't really have to go and recreate the mistakes that we have in terms of how we had approached the world in the past.
All right, Zoliswa, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for this amazing, uplifting book. That was a transformation life coach and inspirational speaker and author, Zoliswa